you cannot get this kind of drug approval with plant extracts. Why? Because they cannot be patent the same way, and therefore there will never be the same return on investment that can come from a synthetic drug.
My name is Alan Steinfeld, and my program is called New Realities. Each week I go deep into the understanding of how we can start to change the planet, how new ideas can be presented to the world to unfold a greater civilization. Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld. This program is about the evolution of our mind, body, spirit. Today we're really going to talk about the body, how we need to adapt and change if we're moving into a new global environment. That's how I would say it. And some solutions to that come in many different forms, especially through the natural plant kingdom. So today I'm talking to Sylvie Beljanski, the vice president of the Beljanski Foundation, and her father discovered an incredible cure for cancer. She's just written this book called Winning the War on Cancer. Thank you, Sylvie, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about your father, because this really comes down to his research and what he discovered as anti-carcinogenic properties of certain plants.
Yes, indeed.
Let's give a little background of who your father was.
My father was a PhD in molecular biology, and he was working in the 70s, 80s at the Pasteur Institute in Paris, where he was a master of research department. And he was one of the first scientists who looked at the environment as a cause and as a solution to cancer. At the time, nobody was speaking about environmental medicine, so it was pretty much of a disruptor.
The external environment.
The external environment, and I have added the internal environment, but that's something else. It was very much, let's say, the first wave of environmentalists and understanding how the environment affects us at the level of the DNA.
Because wasn't that Pasteur's final words on his deathbed? He said, oh no, it's not the germ, it's the environment, right?
Absolutely. But that did not really translate into the direction that the Pasteur Institute took for research in the 70s, 80s, just after the discovery of the DNA by Watson and Crick. Everybody in the scientific world was looking at the DNA and looking at finding genetically engineered drugs, because that is patentable and could bring a lot of money. So that's where they were looking at. They did not want to look at the environment.
So your father said it's not so much the DNA that is the problem, but the effects on the DNA that is causing disease.
Yes, we have one DNA from head to toe from the beginning. We are an alive cell.
Yes.
We have one DNA which is unique, and it is this DNA is affected by what's surrounding it from the time we are. The cell is dividing in the womb,
right?
And all this environment, induces eventually some changes, which are sometimes mutation. But not necessarily, but little by little kind of destabilize, affect our DNA, little by little, to the point where it's too much. And the DNA, the two strands of the DNA that are supposed to be kept together by hydrogen bonds break.
Right, and that is the illness that manifests.
Exactly. So the breakage of the hydrogen bonds are the hallmark of cancer cells.
So the environment, its toxicity, causes a break within the hydrogen molecules within the DNA.
the toxicity of the environment may induce changes of the DNA that will lead at some point eventually to that breakage.
So the whole idea is to prevent the breakage and also build a strong immune against that possibly.
Yes, absolutely. You have you have the before, which is prevention.
Right.
And then you have the problem when you are facing a breakage. You want to prevent those cells whose DNA has been modified to duplicate. And how to do that? When you want to only look at those cells, because you can kill everything. They kill all the cells.
Right.
And that's basically what chemotherapy or radiotherapy are doing. They are war machines that will kill everything they touch. But if you want to do, a more selective approach, then you have to find molecules that will recognize those cells whose hydrogen bonds are not broken and selectively prevent the duplication of those
And
cells.
this is what your father found with certain plants.
Exactly.
South American plants, were they?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It was very important to him to find something that would be selective, because if it is selective, it means that there is no toxicity, no side effect. If you don't have a cancerous or a precancerous cells, then those plant extracts will go nowhere. You are going to eliminate them within hours.
But if you need them, they go into action.
They know where to go. They are kind of intelligent molecules.
Did your father know there was something out there, or was he just kind of fishing around? Of course, he had the whole planet to look for. What made him suspect there would be an answer?
So he looked at how carcinogenic molecules work. And he saw that they were inducing this destabilization of the DNA. And he looked for molecules that would be able to do exactly the opposite. So he created a test. He called it the OncoTest. And it's kind of screening test for molecules. And he was able to find 2 molecules able to selectively prevent the duplication of cancer cells. And the beauty is that since you have one DNA from head to toe, it doesn't matter where the cancer is located. It doesn't matter whether you are a female or a male. It will, go to breast cancer cells just like prostate cancer cells, ovarian cancer cells, pancreatic cancer cells. What it recognizes is a differentiation.
How did he find those molecules, and how did he know where to look in what organic substance?
Well, back in the 80s, there was a kind of controversy in France with an extract of Revolfia vomitoria, which was used for its primary alkaloid, its first molecule, the main molecule in the extract, which was alkaloid.
Yes.
And the name of that molecule was called reserpine.
Reserpine.
Okay. And it was used for high blood pressure.
Okay.
But it was very controversial because it was suspected to induce cancer.
Oh, I see.
So my father looked at that extract and he saw that there were actually 2 molecules in that extract. One that would be beneficial and one that would be toxic and carcinogen. So he had the idea to remove the main molecule and focus on the second molecule, which is called reserpine and is selectively anti-cancer effect. And then he had the idea to look in, chemistry books to see if there were similar molecules that would be readily available without having to remove the first molecule. And he found this as a plant coming from South America.
What is the plant?
Called Pao pereira. The Latin name is Gessospermum velozii.
But it's a common plant in South America? Or
It's pretty common. It's pretty common. It's not like, an endangered species. That said, South America, the Amazon itself is shrinking, and so everything that's coming from the Amazon forest is in a way, endangered.
So he found this plant and he started to make teas and do experiments and worked with people, and he found some pretty miraculous results.
Well, he tested, since he said it's working at the level of the DNA and it's not gender or organ specific, then he started to test on different kind of cancer cells, and he published the results. And a lot of doctors, MDs in France at the time, were very interested in, natural molecules without side effects, without toxicity, that we would know where to go and would kill cancer cells without side effects. So he had a great followers, let's say, it was the 80s, there was no social media, but he had great followers of doctors to the point where he built a reputation. And one day, now we are in the 90s, former French president François Mitterrand is diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer. And the official surgeon of the French White House says that the president, as his cancer has spread everywhere, he's probably not going to finish his second term, and that the country should prepare for early elections. But Mitterrand had a mistress who knew about a good family doctor who had very good results on prostate cancer, because he was using my father's products.
I see.
And that's how François Mitterrand started to take my father's products. And as we know, he was, against all odds, able to finish his second term. That put my father and my father's work, in a spotlight that he was absolutely not prepared for.
He wasn't prepared for the
was
big
not
spotlight.
For the spotlight, for the political arena, which has nothing to do with the laboratory.
But he cured the president.
He cured the president, and that, disturbed a lot of people.
Within the political and scientific community,
yes,
brought repercussions against your father.
Absolutely
Talk
terrible.
about that, because that's...
Absolutely terrible. So as long as Mitterrand was alive, nothing happened.
But he should have been hailed as a hero, your father. And,
it's not that simple. I mean, when you change the political course of a country, some people do hail you as a hero, but a lot of people just don't want to. They don't want anything that disturbs what they had their eye on, and some powerful people had already their eye on the power,
on the presidency.
On the presidency. And then you have this disruptor with natural molecules. That's had to be hocus pocus, right? And if it's not hocus pocus, then, that's dangerous for the drug industry.
Exactly.
So, there is no, you cannot win. It's either hocus pocus, or it is a danger for drug companies. So on October 6, 1996, the 9 months exactly after the passing of François Mitterrand, there was a SWAT team that came to the laboratory where my father was. My father was 74 at the time. And they arrived at 6 o'clock in the morning with machine guns, dogs, a squad with rifles and everything, just to and they seized everything. And there were 3 trucks to seize everything without warrant, without list of what they were
taking away. This is in
away.
Paris. This happened.
This is outside of Paris. That's where the laboratory was.
Okay.
But I have to say that I've been now in New York since '96. Continuing this research and working on behalf of the Beljanski Foundation. I cannot say how grateful I am to this country to have allowed us to continue this work, carry on with my father's legacy, and be able to strive. To be here, to give me the opportunity to speak today. If I was in France, that would not be. and I am very, very grateful for.
They're much more conservative in Europe as far as the alternative medicine?
They don't have the same witches. There are, the witch hunts everywhere, but they don't have the same
But they
witches.
still have it here, but you haven't gotten any negative feedback.
No.
Oh,
no,
you haven't.
No,
So
not here.
that was in the 90s. Your father was arrested, and it was a whole thing, and you helped him get out of that. But there wasn't a movement towards the popularization of his discoveries.
No, everything was destroyed in France. I mean, they destroyed the research, and they destroyed my father as a man. He died just 2 years later. We took the case to the European Court of Human Rights. We won an unanimous decision.
Won what exactly?
We won the European Court of Human Rights decided that my father's human basic rights had been violated by the French government, who basically arrested him, put him on house of arrest, and never gave him the opportunity of a fair trial in a reasonable time frame.
Because he upset the medical system and the political system.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
so awful and so...
You cannot, arrest somebody and let him rot
Right.
on the house of arrest without ever giving him a date for a trial.
But you were able to take this valuable information.
So that they had never, thought that I don't have a scientific
You
background.
were a lawyer.
I'm a lawyer by trade.
Yeah.
And they had no ideas, that a lawyer would start that, scientific adventure all over again from scratch here in another country.
So you got your father's papers, you got his research, and you took that to this country.
Yes, we salvaged everything we could. I think I have to say that the main piece was my mom, who had been working. She is an engineer, research engineer.
Right.
She has been working with my father in the laboratory.
So you
for
salvaged
almost
her
50
because
years.
she
So
had the...
Yes, so getting her to
Right,
come
right.
here in the States with all of her knowledge. And little by little, we were able to salvage a number of papers. And start this Beljanski Foundation here in New York City. And then there was no more laboratory. So the idea was to create partnerships with American institutions of great credibility and have them confirm the research.
Like which institutes were you working
So
with?
we have been able over the years to work with Columbia University on prostate cancer cells, and then with Kansas University Medical Center, we have been working on ovarian and pancreatic cancer cells. And
With the discoveries your father made.
we started with the discoveries of my father and the extracts that he had perfected, but then we were able to go here much further into the understanding of the way the extracts are working and the possibilities that come from using them. For example, we have been able at Kansas University Medical Center to test those plant extracts in synergy with chemotherapies that are currently used and are gold standard. And we have been able to see that both extracts were actually working in synergy with current chemotherapies and enhancing the outcome of the treatment without adding any toxicity.
So why is this not used by hospitals and all those centers that use those chemotherapies?
I think that's an excellent question for insurances.
Oh, for
not for me. That's, everything, which has come from hospital is decided at the level of the insurance. It's health
But
insurance.
doctors must have some say in what kind of, chemicals along with, but maybe it's the paradigm way of thinking that they're not open to these natural complementary
I think
products.
it has a lot to do with insurance.
You do.
And insurance coverage and they are, covered to use a number of drugs which have been FDA approved, and you cannot get this kind of, drug approval with plant extracts. Why? Because they cannot be patented the same way, and therefore there will never be the same return on investment that can come from a synthetic drug.
It's awful that disease is an industry. I heard more people live off of the working with cancer than dying from it.
It's called the healthcare industry.
Yeah. So I believe in healthcare for all. Let's get rid of the insurance companies. I mean, that's a whole other program we can do. But are doctors, though, hearing about this? I mean, I hope this program will allow some people, but what is the reception among doctors, alternative healthcare practitioners?
So healthcare professionals are very interested and very open, because when they see the science, they are really, they see that here there is something serious, published by reputable institutions, and that the science makes sense. It's good quality research published in peer-reviewed papers. It's not, something shadowy or whatever.
Right. No, it's...
So they feel comfortable. They try on some patients. They see the results, and they are, after that, very, very, very interested. And we have a professional line of products, and that, a lot of doctors are interested.
And you came to this country, the development in the early 2000s, and now you've just written this book. So it seems like you're gearing up for bigger and bigger exposure with this. I want to put this out there for people, right? So
thank you for giving me that exposure.
I think alternatives need to be looked at, because obviously the medical industry is not interested in, or maybe some people are, but the natural world has the answer for us.
Well, all good doctors who are really genuinely interested into the well-being of their patients and want to help them, they are open, they are interested. It's wonderful to see, the number of trade shows dedicated to alternative medicine here in the States. It's really, there are more and more people, more and more doctors who are really, really open.
Your website, the Beljanski Foundation, is the website?
So beljanski.org,
right.
beljanski.org,
right.
is a website, and you can find on that website all the research. You can download all the publications, and it's available, so you can print that, bring that to your doctor, and discuss if you think, it's appropriate and help you in your battle.
People can order individually as well. They go to your website and they can order the teas. Tell me about the teas and why green tea is a part of it.
So just 2 years ago, I received a box in New York and had no idea, I opened the box. And it is some papers come from my father's laboratory, some book notes and so on. What happened is that after the laboratory was raided by the French army in 1996, a few days later, my father's secretary came to the laboratory to try to put some order back to. And all the drawers had been opened, forced. They had taken almost everything. What could not fit into the mover's truck was left, on the floor.
Right.
So, and at her feet, she sees a piece of paper, and she immediately recognized my father's handwriting. So she takes a box, and she tries to salvage whatever she can that, to her seems to be possibly of some interest. But what to do with the box? So she put the box in her garage, and it stayed
from the 90s.
And it stayed in her garage for 20 years.
With your father's valuable information.
Absolutely. And then 20 years later, she decided, it's time to get rid of the garage, and she's moving and blah, blah, blah. And what to do with this box? Now I am in New York. She decides to send me the box. That's how I received this box. And I find immediately this piece of paper with my father's handwriting and listing several teas, 4 teas, green teas, and says, very, very anti-C.
Anti-C?
Anti-C.
Was
C,
it
letter C.
Yeah.
So
okay.
knowing my father, I mean, C could only mean cancer.
Oh, because he didn't want to write it out for the...
He wrote
I see.
anti-C. That's
I see.
the paper
right.
came to me.
Okay. Yes.
So I have this paper coming from,
It's 20... Your father...
has passed what kind of test, his last paper. I mean, this kind of coming to me from
like a
from another world.
Yeah, it's like a time loop, huh?
Yes, exactly.
Amazing.
And I said, okay, very, very anti-C. Well, let's test that. Because what does it mean? How much? I mean, I'm a lawyer, so we mix a mix of those four green teas. They are green teas, and we send that to Kansas University Medical Center, with which we had already worked on ovarian and pancreatic cancer, and we asked them to test and to compare with other green teas.
Right.
So we sent, Lipton, Bigelow. There was also another.
So so they do the comparison test.
And they do the comparison on breast cancer cells, and the mix of the mix that my father identified indeed was killing breast cancer cells much, much faster.
This is separate from the plant medicine he found before.
Yes. So much more research is now needed to understand, if how many cups of green teas do you need to drink to have, an effectiveness? Because what we have done was, on in vitro and then in vivo on mice, but we have not perfected that, on human yet. So that's the next line of research for the
But you're
foundation.
selling the green teas.
So it's teas, so we can make that available.
But you're also selling the capsules of the other plants for people who want to order it?
Yes. We now have a place called the Maison Beljanski here in Manhattan.
Oh, okay. It's a location.
Yes, it's on the 53rd Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue. And on the ground floor, it's a store and a tea room. And on the first floor, it's a place where we host events.
Okay.
And on a regular basis, we have health conferences. We create a community with a number of health professionals who come also and share their knowledge with a lot of people. So that's it's all that is Maison Beljanski. You can have a cup of tea. You can have a health coaching session. You can buy some supplements. You can buy the book. And you can attend a health conference.
Beautiful, and it's right here in New York. So you've dedicated your life to, in a way, saving humanity. This is what your father's vision was too, right?
At the beginning, I did that for my father, and as a lawyer, I was so startled by what the French government had done, try to destroy research that can make a difference, in people's lives. And the way, they treated him so badly that we won at the European Court of Human Rights, that I wanted to right a wrong. But then, with time passing and the quality of the research coming from, those research institutions we have been working with, it became something different. It really became the opportunity to spread an information that can help people.
It became your passion.
And it became my passion. And I could not be more proud of the message of hope that we can bring. And because there is this underlying quality of research. It's not, hope based on nothing. It is hope based on sound research.
Well, it's a beautiful bond between you and your father, in a way, and your mother, and you have now the intelligence and the drive to make this public, to bring this out to people, because it does work. It does help people. There's proof and scientific validation.
You know, what is also of great support is that I am not alone in doing that. You know, as a foundation, there is, you know, a scientific director here in New York. He is also a PhD, just like my father was, in molecular biology. And then, you know, there is, you know, board of directors, a board of advisors. There are people, you know, giving to the foundation, supporting to what we are doing. And I feel, you know, we cannot let all those people down. There is, you know, there is an expectation, and we have to deliver. Because we can.
We can, and it's needed more than ever as environmental toxicities get worse and worse.
Yes, it's unfortunately we are swimming in an ocean of toxins, and I have to say that not only we have to look at the environmental toxins, but also we have to look at the stress we are living with, the toxic relationships that, you know, are everywhere and lurking through social media more than ever maybe today. And all that is actually known to participate to the slow but sure destabilization of the DNA.
Well, thank you for the amazing, beautiful work you're doing and the love and dedication to helping people.
Thank you very much.
And your book...
I took my reader with me to understand what my father's research is about, just like a novel, all it took to start all over again.
Right.
Here in the States, in a new country. And all the people also, it's a thank you and love letter to all the people along the way who helped me to make that happen.
Well, it's a great book, and it's important, and your work's important, and I see it moving out to a much bigger audience.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
And Beljanski.org, right?
Exactly.
For products, information, more about Sylvie and her father and the research and how to order products. I recommend it for everybody. I mean, even if people aren't ill, they could still benefit from the products that are there.
There is no side effects, and you know, everybody can benefit in building their immune system.
I'm Alan Steinfeld. You can reach me at newrealities.com. Thanks for watching today.